What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Corner Office, where Ruhan and I sit down with Philadelphia's leading entrepreneurs and executives.
In 2020, businesses are more concerned than ever with maintaining diversity in both their employees and the way that they think. More than that, companies have a responsibility to give back to the community. Today, we're sitting down with Rosalyn McPherson, CEO of the Ros Group. She's going to share several ways that your company can implement diversity and improve their CSR efforts. Roz, thank you so much for coming on an episode of The Corner Office.
Sure.
We're extremely excited to have you here. How does it feel to be on an episode?
It feels good.
That's how it should feel. Awesome. So, Roz, you have a tremendous amount of experience both in the corporate world as well as in the museum world. You were Senior Vice President at the Franklin Institute. Then you spent some time at the Urban League of Philadelphia,
Right.
which is a nonprofit dedicated to empowering African Americans. So when it comes to the topic of diversity in the workplace, you have so much experience that you're very well qualified to speak and recognize on what that looks like. So the first question to you is, what does diversity in the workplace mean to you?
So that's a very broad question, and I often think about what it was like when I first entered the corporate world, where there were very few people like me in the world of publishing. So what that kind of adjustment was like, and some of the early attempts to make people feel welcomed and engaged, that didn't always work, and where we are many years later, where you have much broader programs and initiatives, more so on the corporate side than on the nonprofit side. So it means a lot of different things to me, and I think the bottom line that it's important for people to feel welcomed into the workplace and to feel that they have the opportunities to grow in their jobs and excel.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think, moving forward into the future years, we see a movement where everyone wants to be included and everyone wants to be equal regardless of the color of your skin or your sexual orientation or where you're from or whatever. So for management teams and CEOs watching this video, what are some actionable tips that they can use to implement diversity both in the people working at their companies
Yes.
and in the way that people think when challenging themselves or solving problems?
So the first thing is that the directives must come from the top. Because if they don't come from the top of the organization, then people don't feel compelled to implement. And management buy-in is critical to a successful initiative.
Yeah.
I think it's also important for people to have training. A lot of folks think that they're open and that they don't have biases, but all of us have them. Yeah. So pointing that out through training at various levels, because I believe that senior team needs to be trained as well as people working beneath them to understand what that's like. And I also think it's important to conduct assessments of your organization so you can really get a sense of how people are thinking and feeling. That is a real critical move, and to understand that it's not a short-term initiative, that it's going to go on forever. We're human beings. We don't become perfect. We strive for a better workplace.
Awesome. Those are some really great tips. Hopefully, if you're a CEO watching this, you can start thinking about that. So now I want to talk a little bit about your nonprofit experience. And you were the CEO, as we mentioned, of the Urban League of Philadelphia.
Yes.
And now you're the CEO of the Ros Group, which is a bit more typical of it's a more for-profit entity, correct?
Yes, definitely.
So what is the difference when you're the CEO of a nonprofit versus a for-profit where you have shareholders and margins and bottom lines to maintain?
All right, so there are major differences, and my biggest experience as a nonprofit was Senior VP for the Science Center at the Franklin Institute. So what I find to be, and then of course I was with Time Warner before that. So what I find to be the biggest difference is mindset. And that is, in the for-profit world, innovation and creativity is encouraged And if the idea is sound enough, we'll find the money. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
In the nonprofit world, when I first entered it at the museum, there was always the fear that we don't have enough money. And that would often stifle a team's ability to innovate because they were afraid of wasting that thinking energy because it won't get funded. And so one of the things I really tried to do with my team was to help them adopt a more corporate mindset that all of these ideas are invaluable and we'll figure it out. And in many instances we did. Because fundraising is very tough. I did not have to do fundraising and stuff like that in the for-profit world. Also, I enjoyed the ability to be out and about more in my jobs. And I think one of the myths when people go from nonprofit to for-profit is that folks going into nonprofit think that they're doing better for society. I think that's a myth. Every job I've had on the for-profit side was going to improve society. I was dealing with school systems and journalistic endeavors, and it was mission. Those were mission-oriented as well. It's just that we have to make a bottom line work, which to me is no different than having to have a margin on the nonprofit side. So I enjoy that I've had the opportunity to do both.
That's a perfect segue into my next question, because it's interesting you say that even for the for-profit companies, you still have a responsibility to the citizens and to the community to improve it. So my question to you now is, as a for-profit entity, what are some ways that they can implement and have an effective corporate social responsibility program?
Okay, so again, I've had the benefit of working for major companies that did just that. For example, when you work in publishing or work with a media company, literacy is a big deal. When you work for a science company, contributing to science education is a big deal. And also, I really appreciate those organizations like APICO who are really about ensuring that the community has access to programs where they can thrive. So I think that while companies are into making lots of money, and I say there's nothing wrong with that, that it's important to take a portion of those proceeds and do something to improve people's lives. Because, Philadelphia is a city that has a lot of poverty, but we also have a lot of wealth. So I think that the corporate social responsibility programs have the opportunity to spread that about and to help young people really get a foothold that will take them out of that situation and help them to really see a bigger world out there.
Awesome, yeah. And just turning that inwards to ourselves, Formcraft designs and builds great office spaces. Maybe we can start a CSR program where we help young entrepreneurs find a space to work temporarily or something like that. So I like how you said that it can still be related to what you guys do as a company, but with the glance towards improving someone else.
Yeah, and I'm big on organizations like yours creating incubators perhaps for young people to learn some of those skills. I find that in the construction related areas, very few young people of color know what it's like to be an exhibit designer or to be an interior designer. So I'm an advocate for more programs that allow exposure to those kinds of fields.
Excellent, excellent. Now here's my favorite part of the show. It's the question of the day, where our esteemed guest poses a question to the audience. Do you have a question of the day?
Okay, he sprang that.
This is a surprise for her. We didn't mention this in the
warm-up.
All right.
So my question of the day to another CEO.
To everyone watching.
To everyone watching.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you do to think of a legacy of give back that you can leave behind that is directly related to the work you do?
Beautiful question. Really excellent question. Roz, it was such a pleasure having you come on the Corner Office. Where can our audience connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on all of the social media.
That's the place to be.
And then, of course, our website is www.therozgroup, Roz is spelled with a Z.com.
Perfect. Guys, thanks for watching another episode of The Corner Office. Keep it locked in here every single Wednesday for all the best content from Philadelphia's top CEOs.